Hey, good morning. It is Friday, April the 17th at 8 o'clock a.m. This is meteorologist Shea Gibson with Sailflow bringing you race day one forecast weather briefing. And we're going to go through a slide deck here real quick. Myself, Greg Fisher with Sailing Inc., powered by Evolution Sales, Hall of Famer. Glad to have another one this year, Greg. I know we had Ed Beard last year, so really excited to have you in with us for this one. Housekeeping rules. If you're watching, thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat box and we'll field those during the segment or directly after. Free pro access for the entire Charleston race week. That's all stations in the Charleston area with pro access for everything, including the forecast. So lots more there. So be sure just to zoom in on the app. You'll see the stations appear. You can click on them and get all the information you need. It won't be for any other region, just for the Charleston area. So just FYI, someone had a question about that yesterday. So thanks for the question there. Real quick, all right, we have another guest speaker today. It's Scott Herman with Spectrum Sailing. Now, Scott, I know my son attended this camp a couple of times, and it was great. He had a really good time, and it looks like you got a longer lineup every year. You grow this organization, so very exciting stuff. Tell us a little bit about what you have going on this year, what your organization is about, and then what you have going on this year for it.
Sure. Thank you, Shea, for including us, and thank you, Charleston Race Week, for caring about our mission and giving us a few seconds to share what we do. Spectrum Sailing is the only national autism sailing program. We run free sailing camps for kids across the country. As you can see here, our schedule, we started this year in California. We go all across the Midwest, Texas, Florida. We're in Boston this year. We added Sheboygan, our first Wisconsin camp. We're continuing to grow. This year we'll have 14 camps with giving over 280 kids an opportunity to learn how to sail, and again, all free of charge. So if anyone out here is interested in helping to support us, we're happy to meet with you. We'll be at the skipper meetings and the parties throughout. You can meet me face to face, or you can always reach out to us at spectrumsailing.org. We're always looking for sponsors and support, and we're also always looking for clubs that want to offer this kind of programming to their community. You can reach out to us at the same spot, and we're happy to talk to you about bringing a camp to your club locally. So thanks for including us in this, and we're excited to be on the water this week.
Sure. Thank you, Scott. Greg, did you have any? I thought you had something you wanted to add here too, as far as the program goes. It's a great thing.
I just wanted to agree with what you said, Shay. It's super what Scott does, and to see the passion he puts into it and the results. It's great that Scott gets to tell us all about it.
Yep. Thank you very much, Scott. And thanks for hopping on this morning. You're welcome to join us for the rest of the forecast. In fact, I encourage you to, because what you have going on, you're going to be in the race today. Speaking of the race, race circles 1, 2, and 3 along the South Channel here. Primary focus for the forecast, as well as up along the wharf coming out the Cooper River. We're going to be focused on that area too, is for the ebb and the winds. As we look like we have a similar pattern to yesterday and the day before, kind of a different scenario. And I'll go into some details about that in just a minute. I'll also be covering the offshore pursuit series for Circle 5. I know first morning's at 10:30 a.m., so I know folks are scrambling to get out there right now, get out on the water, get those practices going. And so I'll try to get through this as quick as possible here. Tide information for this morning, we have a max ebb at 1:14 p.m., so that means all the starts will be going out towards a max ebb. I know we're in a new moon phase, so the estimations from tides and currents is about minus 2.49 knots. I'm sure that that's a little bit more when it comes down to it in some of those areas, especially right out the Ashley River across the South Channel, probably looking at more like 2.75 to 2.9, if not 3, as we have about a 5 to 6 foot drop or tide table to deal with in the phase that we're in. And it only gets a little bit stronger through the weekend as we phase out on new moon on today, actually, and all the way through the weekend. So the higher tides are going to be in the evenings, which means the ebbs will be even stronger than this. So just wanted to kind of throw that up there. Max ebb, of course, Greg, I'm going to bring you into this in just a little bit, but showing the arrows here where we come out of the Cooper River and down, meeting with the Ashley River ebb as far as the South Channel is concerned. And that can be a little tricky in that area right off the point of the Battery, where those two areas converge. You can actually see a line in the water where the difference in salinity levels and debris in the water kind of come together. So you want to be cognizant of that area and stay in the current where it is advantageous, or away from or inside the other part of the current for those other race legs. So with that said, I'll go ahead and go right into the forecast here. right now we're looking at about 11 to 12 knots. It shoots folly. It's due south-southwest. And as we've seen last couple of days, I want to kind of bring this draw tool over and go through Wednesday. So I'm going to back up a little bit in history. We go through Wednesday where we had a morning build and then it dropped and then it went back up again through the day. And that has a lot to do with the sea breeze front being pinned closer to the coast, the outer coast, before it pushes inland. The same thing happened yesterday. We had a more robust morning flow like we're seeing this morning based on nocturnal jetting. And as that nocturnal jetting burns off, we see the sea breeze front receding, or it's actually just being held closer to the coast and then pushing inland through the day and into the afternoon again. So those 14 to 18 knots didn't hit until late afternoon yesterday. But we're looking at a similar pattern today, but a little less on the return flow for the afternoon. And the reason why is because we have the pattern in place shows the ridge or the Bermuda High still sitting out here, ridge axis extending all the way across the Gulf. And then we have this little segment of what's it's shown as a cold front on the surface map. However, it's more of a mid-level troughing feature. So there's not even any clouds involved with it. It's just a little bit of a weakness in the ridge aloft at the mid-levels where you see a kink in these isobars coming down. And so that proximity of this trough is going to also make the winds do that little southerly shift in the afternoon that we've been seeing. So this trough mechanism is throwing a little bit of perturbance in the mid-levels, just enough to throw it off. So that's going to be the pattern for today. As we look into tomorrow, very similar, except the troughing goes more upstate and opens up the flow a little bit more, maybe a little bit weaker overall for tomorrow, but we're just focusing on today. So that's sort of the science behind looking at visible satellite. Again, lots of sunshine out there. We have lots of sinking air under the ridge, which means dry air, and also contributes to our ongoing drought that we have in the area. But it will help with the sea breezes because there's plenty of sunshine. And today we're actually looking at possibly making a run for record highs in the 93, 94 degree range inland. Of course, over the water, much cooler, upper 70s, maybe 80 degrees. But let's go back to, because I want to make sure we focus on the areas on the south course and also offshore. Greg, I'm going to bring you into this where we look at Chutes Folly sensor yesterday, pretty indicative of what was going on over the southern race courses here. James on Yacht Club also has a free Tempest Station area you can see in our app. That is also another good point of reference. It shows the direction that correlate, or at least make a comparison to Chutes Folly. So you get a little bit of both on either side. Of course, this is going to be shadowed out by land at some points. If you get more of the southerly flow, you have more trees and more buildings. So Chutes Folly is a little bit better. But if we look at this lull, we talk about the sea breeze front, Greg, and so the currents, I want to make sure we're getting zeroed in on the currents where we have this max ebb coming out of the Ashley River. We also have the Cooper River coming down, and where these two converge right about in this point, you get a little bit of turbulence in that current, but where it really pulls through in these winds coming up from the south, a little bit of oscillation between 190 and 200 degrees, about 170 and 200 degrees, sometime between 11 and 1 o'clock, 11 a.m. and 1 o'clock p.m., and the winds lulling down again to that 8 to 12 knot range. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain on what to do with this max ebb coming through here during modest winds. So what are your thoughts?
Well, Shea, it's tricky for sure. And I wish I had a really clever answer, except that we got to be really careful, knowing that you're kind of going to suggest that the breeze might back earlier in the day, and that might encourage us to kind of get to the left side a little bit, but the wind's also going to die. And knowing that the current coming out of the Ashley, once we get into the middle of the weather leg, especially on course 1, is really going to be ripping out. 2.5 knots or 2 knots is a lot of movement. So I think we want to be careful about getting too far left. So when we come back on port to the top mark, we're going right into the current. I think you said that earlier. So I think though the breeze is going to go left, I think we got to be really careful and stay up current when it's moving that fast. That's easy to say though when you're in a motorboat watching. I would just really keep our eyes open on what the fleets maybe to the left of us, the east of us are doing, and just watch what's coming next. And If we get breeze, then maybe we could fade a little bit left. But again, I'd be really careful about getting too far.
Right. Good points. Thank you very much for chiming in on that. Looking at the model guidance here, some of the models are, and these winds have actually been overperforming. So I haven't really been putting a lot of money into the model guidance, right? I mean, if I had to hedge my bets, I'm going on the higher end of these models where we're about 9, 10 o'clock, 10:30. We're starting at about 8 to 12. We could drop down 7 to 11 on that side of the harbor and pick up as you head towards the jetties for the offshore pursuit. But by noon, we're still sitting steady in that 7 to 11 knot range. Any more than that would be gifted. If we're 9 to 13, that's even better. There's a little more wind in that area. But just watch for these winds at some point midday. It's not an exact science, but we could be seeing an oscillation all the way over towards 220, 225, and then backing from the south. And the reason why is because the synoptic flow from the high is going to push that direction versus what we normally would see as a southwest flow holding across the harbor for most of the day during your standard sea breeze. It's not like we have a very robust Bermuda high in place with like the upstate troughing just sitting there. It's a little more consolidated at the coast with some of this mid-level features. And if we look at COD satellite, one thing I always look for is return flow. At 500 millibars, we got west-southwest. It's going to be veering westerly through the day, which means at 25, 30 knots up there, the return flow profile increases. So you have these westerly upper level winds, you have air rising, your thermals rising inland, and then that flow goes out, returns back in, and completes the sea breeze circulation at the coast. And it's coming up more from the south on this based on how the isobars and the isotachs are lined up around that ridge. And that's kind of the science about the microclimate for the Charleston area. So it'll be, in other words, I'll say this, it'll be similar to yesterday's build. For the inside harbor, we're looking at that 12 to 17 knot return coming around, starting around 1, 2 o'clock. We go up to 11:15. We start to steadily increase through the afternoon. We're up to 12 to 16 by 2. 13 to 17 by 3. And I think we're going to hold those numbers, and it might be right in the middle versus yesterday being a little bit stronger by late afternoon. So that's going to be the game for the harbor. Watch for some gusts, especially near the wharf. If you're on the northern side up here, you get some of that thermal coupling in this area. And if the winds are due south or even just a little bit south-southwest that are more parallel with the peninsula, you can see some pretty gusty winds coming through here and also dispersing through the harbor up towards Chutes Folly. So just be ready for some higher gusts in those upper teens as we saw yesterday. As far as the offshore pursuit class, let me get out of this and try to get back to the arrow. Offshore it tends to be a little trickier, but the good thing is you have 2 pluses. Number one, the sea breeze front being pinned to the coast along the ICW by late morning, which we've seen, which excludes the Chutes Folly area. And as the day goes on and the heating occurs after noon, 1 o'clock, that sea breeze front starts to propagate inland. Good news for the offshore pursuit is you have an ebb coming out through the jetties to go with. And number 2, this pocket of wind holds up pretty well out there. So you're looking at a little more wind than maybe what you might see on the South Channel out there. I think we start, the Capers near shore buoys at 13. A little farther out at 18 miles of the Corinth buoys, 19 knots, so a little stronger out there. You got some pretty big swells working in at about 3 to 4, actually 4 to 4.5 feet out at the 60. But I believe along this offshore race course, you're going to be looking at this 12 to 16 knot, pretty solid zone for much of the afternoon, maybe 14 to 18 as we round the 1 to 2 o'clock hour. So I think we're going to hold up pretty well out there. As far as swell heights, I'm going to surf line for this. I'm going to go out. I'm just going to kind of pick a point. It looks like we're going to be about 3. It might get a little rough out there just based on that moderate wind going on. The primary swell being about 2 and 2.5 feet added on, accentuated by that wind. You're looking at about 3 to 3.5 feet at a shorter period. The primary swell is going to be at 9 seconds, but that wind's going to overcut it from that different direction, making it more of a 5 to 6 second. So it could be a little rough out there, just a little caution. Current's not so much of an issue that far out. It really just banks into the coast for the currents as you get closer in. But the good thing is you'll be coming out during an ebb and then coming back in most likely during a more of a flat tide. So that's not a bad deal to have if you're in the offshore course. Again, highs, low 90s inland. Looks like really beautiful weather out there. So either way, you guys have fun. Any other questions or comments from the panel before we sign off? For Greg, anything to add before we head out for the day?
No, that was great, Shea. We always learn a lot. Appreciate it.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, that'll be a wrap for today. It's 8:15. I know everybody's anxious to get out there, get on the boats, and get the practicing. So either way, have fun out there today. Godspeed, and we'll see you back tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock a.m. Thanks, everyone.